Hello guys, I'm Nona Prince and I finally watched the Tamil political thriller Maamannan, written and directed by Mari Selvaraj, a director I really admire. I've already seen and reviewed both his previous films, Pariyeram Perumal and Karnan. Now a disclaimer, something you should know that I am not very well versed or understand caste politics. That too of Tamil Nadu, a very different culture with different language. I will not have that organic connection. And the only reference I have is other films dealing with the same topic. And in the past, when I've shared my opinions on certain films, it has often upset people. My review will be out of the context of reality because I am not really part of it. And I assume people come to watch my review to know a different perspective, to get an opinion on the film from an outside perspective. But there a question lies. Isn't it the job of the film to make the viewer understand the context of it? It cannot be the case that if you're not from a particular region and you know that particular language, you cannot watch the film. It's not for you. Point of the film is to break barriers and reach out to other people. And that is a mark of a good film. And I feel this director has accomplished that with all his three films. His depiction of the caste politics, unlike some other films, is very nuanced and detailed. When you watch his film, it feels like it's part of them. It intertwines with their lives. Yes, the films are about oppressed versus the oppressor, the subjugation they face, the injustice. But everything is part of the social context. His films doesn't represent casteism as an evil block which you can just pick and throw away. It's not that easy. It's way complicated than that. And that's why his films feel very real, very authentic, because there are multiple layers in the narrative. And watching his films, you get an understanding that the director has lived through it. He has experienced all this and he's representing everything with his unique perspective. And that's why you're eager to watch. Now, over the director's three films, you can see he has a distinct style. He loves using animals in his films. And with them, he creates a lot of metaphors. The way he intercuts it, the juxtaposition of these imagery, and all of it carries a lot of symbolism. I feel the cinematicness has grown over each film. Karnan was very well shot and very aesthetic, but this one was just next level. And I felt this film was a perfect balance between mass and real. There is that superstar Vijay or Rajni kind of mass with a social message, and then there is a very, realistic and grounded film. And this film lies in the middle, and the balance is very well maintained. I would say even Karnan had Dhanush, a big star, but it was not as massy as this film. Now, in the spectrum of hard-hittingness, the order will be opposite. The first film was more hard-hitting, then the second, then the third. The film is pretty much grounded, but there are these slow-mo moments. There are these mass moments. Not very over the top, but it gives you that similar feeling. Now, the first half of the film is very well paced. I really enjoyed the editing, constantly intercutting between different characters and what they are doing, creating a contrast between them, yet building a relationship between them. One interesting element was showing the flashbacks in black and white, and at many moments you are constantly intercutting to that. It has some really intense moments where the tension is so high, and the best part is the scenes are so simple, yet there's so much energy. The scene where he asks his father to sit, it's a very normal and simple thing. He will not sit and his father will stand. He wants his father to sit, but nobody has asked his father to sit because he always stands. And that's what I meant when I said, it's all intertwined with their lives. Casteism is present and everyone knows it. It's not something that's mentioned again and again. It's part of their life so much that they don't even question it. And when someone comes in to question it, when someone points it out, it raises the tension. And I loved how that scene was treated like a western. That first we get a close-up of this character. Fahadh's character says, sit down, but he doesn't listen. He wants his father to sit down. His father saying no. And then we cut to long shots of that same scene, building the tension. There's silence, the wind is blowing. Again we cut to a wider shot. Again it's silent. And then again we go back to close-ups. And the same thing happening. Tension is rising. And when that scene leads to a conflict, the father-son go home and now they're waiting for the goons to come in and they're ready for it. It's like a siege. The goons are outside waiting. They are waiting inside. The tension again is rising. As a viewer, you are anticipating what's gonna happen next. And I think the film peaked at these moments. And after that, nothing even came close to it. And that's why, the second half feels very dragged, very slow. It felt like they just had a point to make, but it stretched a long time to make that point. And during the climax, they're counting the votes, who will win, there's so much tension. And then we get an action scene, which felt like because it's the ending, it's the climax, we need an action scene, so it feels forced. I even felt technically the film took a dip in those sequences. And this sequence didn't really add any tension. You just prolonged the results, which we are waiting for. The outcome of that sequence doesn't really matter. But I feel it's the post-climax, the ending, that's very strong. When we see the father in the assembly as the speaker, everyone standing up for him, and they'll only sit when he will sit. That was an impactful scene. Coming to the music, it was by A.R. Rahman, and I would say it was pretty wild. There were all kinds of music. We had a love song, we had some kind of folklore song also. Then there was some modern version, some rock music also there. Very wacky, very rebellious. Coming to the acting, I think the two who stood out for me. First one was Vadivelu as Maamannan. I think he did a really good job carrying that character, and the writing for his character was really good. Because in most films, the father character would die or something will happen to him, and the son, who's the hero, will take revenge or or fight back, something like that. But he was like a co-lead in the film. It was his narrative also. It was his arc also. So that I really liked. And the second one was Fahadh Faasil as Ratnavelu. Now for his character, there was a very fine line from being a complex character and being a caricature, just a pure evil villain. And I think he balanced that fine line very well. We have seen such characters many times, but he brought something very intriguing to him, that you hated him, you disliked this character, but you were invested in his narrative. Like, where will he lead to? And I liked that they gave depth to this character and not just made him evil villain. But I did feel the second half stretch did harm this character a bit. Now Udhayanidhi Stalin, I've not seen any of his films before. This was the first time, so I don't have a reference point, and he did a good job. There were few moments where he shined, but I felt overall it was kind of one-tone performance. His character definitely had a lot of complexity, and you see that in the first half. But once they resolved his issue with the father, which was the main crux of it, there wasn't much in the second half for him. He was just getting angry and his father saying don't, and he was like, okay, I will not, but then he later does it. Like, there was nothing much there. Keerthy Suresh didn't have much. That character itself was very inconsequential. It needed a lot to make it interesting. Overall, it's a well-made film, making very interesting points. If you ask me to rank all his three films, I would say Periyeram Perumal is number 1, and then Karnan and this maybe in the second place. Now in this video, you can check out my top 10 films of 2023 in the first 6 months. What are your thoughts? Do let me know in the comments below. If you liked it, the thumbs up button, share this, and I'll see you next time.